So welcome to the first power session, number one, unit management. Before we jump in, just a little bit on myself. My name's Cameron, or Cam. Most people call me. I'm the lead sales support officer here at Storman. My role includes mostly Storman implementations related. So whether it's setting up your Storman to the 4-week post-implementation support, I'm your main point of call. I also look after some easy questions that you may have as well. So the first session, we're going to be covering 3 or 3.5 different things. So unit management, so obviously adding and removing a unit from an agreement, how to transfer a unit, so how to move one customer from one unit to another, and also how to reactivate an inactive agreement. So if you've accidentally moved someone out, how to actually reactivate that agreement and just get them back to where they were before you've done that. Okay, so the first point, so how to add and remove a unit from an agreement. So we'll be working on Louisa White. I have a demo copy of Storman. So we'll be working on Louisa White in unit 111, adding unit 106 to agreement, and then still actually working on Louisa. We'll be then removing her original unit, so unit 111. Okay, so opening up into our Storman. So Louisa White, I've already got it highlighted. So you just need to double click onto her agreement, open it up. You don't need to go much further than the agreement tab. So to actually add in the unit, if you just click onto the green plus button at the top here, and essentially what this will do is it'll create a multi-unit agreement. So at this time, if you do know what unit number you are actually adding into the person's agreement, you can actually type it out, so 106. You do also have a unit selection tool. So if we hit the select, it'll actually bring up your different unit types. And all you need to do is just find 106 in your list over to your right. Click on that one, go select, and then it'll actually ask you to confirm the move-in date. So this is the move-in date of the new unit. Keep in mind that Storman will actually create pro ratas based upon this date. So I'm moving them in as of today's date. So hit OK. Storman's then going to ask you just to confirm that this pro rata is going to be created. So if the person is actually taking this unit as a lower rate, if you actually hit change rent, you can actually change the amount of rent that the person's actually paying for this one particular unit. Hit OK, and then you'll actually see here that our pro ratas have actually updated as well. So once we're actually happy with that, hit yes. It will ask you if you want to charge a deposit for this. Obviously, you've taken a deposit for your other unit. If you do actually have a deposit for this one as well, I highly suggest you take it. I'm just going to select yes for this as well. And there we go. So that's adding a unit. You can actually see here, I now have unit 106. It's charging $140 worth of rent. It's in the same billing cycle as our original unit. And if I actually go to transactions, you'll see here it's charged a deposit for me and also worked out a pro rata rental charge as well. So that's about adding in units. So as mentioned, still working on Louisa White once again. I'm actually just going to click OK and refresh my back screen, hitting the 2 arrows below. And you can actually see that I've got Louisa White. So now we're actually going to be removing unit 111, so the one that I've highlighted just here. So I'm just going to click on the other unit. It makes no difference what unit you actually do select. It's just personal preference. So if we actually highlight unit 111 and hit the red cross, so same screen, agreement info. Storman's going to ask if you want to actually confirm to remove this unit. We're just selecting OK. Confirming my move out date, hit OK. Now, Storman's actually going to ask you to create a pro rata for this. So you'll actually see here it's got calculations. At this time, I don't have the permission to actually change the monthly rent, as this time you don't really have to. So selecting yes, and then you'll actually see there the unit's removed. So as simple as that for remove a unit. If you actually go to transactions, you actually see now I also have a rental credit for that particular unit, and selecting OK. So before I go on to the next section, does anyone have any questions just for adding and removing a unit? Okay. So my next session, my next question is actually how to transfer a unit. So in this example, we'll be moving Nigel Baker. He has decided that he wants to move from unit 109 into 116. In doing so, we'll also be creating some pro rata charges and credits to actually get his agreement back into the same billing cycle as what they were before they moved. So opening back into Storman, just need to find Nigel Baker, who's in unit 109, double clicking on this. So once again, you're staying on your agreement info, and you'll actually be hitting the 2 arrows that look like they're circling each other, the blue and green arrow. This is the unit transfer wizard. So straight away, we've got a transfer date. Obviously, enter this for what date they're usually going. I'm just doing today's date. Hitting next. On your next screen where it says add units, this is the unit that the person's actually moving into or transferring into. So green plus button, you can either enter in the unit number, and as I mentioned previously, 116, or once again, you've also got your unit select tool. We just need to find our unit, select, and highlight. At this time, you'll see that I didn't have a pop-up to say that I wanted to change the default rent. And that's purely just because you need to click into this field just here, and you can actually change it from within this. If they were actually moving into more units than just one, you can actually just continually hit the green plus button and add them as you go. And then you can actually change the default rent for every single one. Hitting next, we're actually going to be removing 109. So this is the unit they're actually moving out of. So if we actually hit the move out, if they did actually have more than one unit, once again, this list will just grow, and you just need to check the units that the person is actually moving out of. Hitting next, on your next screen, this is actually the confirmation of what you're actually trying to do. So you can see there that I'm actually moving out of unit 109. That was on a rate of $90, and then moving into 116 at a rate of $140. Down at the bottom here where it says transactions, you actually see there I have a pro rata for unit 116 of $40, and I can actually choose whether or not I want to bill this. So usually when person's actually moving between two units of same rental value, you can choose actually not to charge any pro ratas, and all you need to do is just go through and uncheck each one of these. As these units do actually have a separate rental charge, they could also have a separate deposit charge. So you can see there I've actually got a deposit. And if I did have an original deposit, it will also show on that list. And then just hitting finish will actually complete the transfer. So you can see here they're now moved into 116. And if I go to my transactions, I've also got a rental credits and a deposit for that 116 as well. Hitting save, and then you're good to go. Have I got any questions just for a unit transfer at this time? Okay. So the last session, or last sort of piece of information I want to give you is actually how to reactivate an inactive agreement. So you've moved someone out accidentally. It's okay. We've all done it. We're all human. For the next session, section, I should say, there is certain permissions that will actually block you from re-enabling an agreement. So if you do find that you're unable to do some steps, just get someone that does actually have higher permissions, usually a site owner or the admin account, will actually allow you to do this. So now that we've got that out of the way, we'll be working on Morrison Construction, which I've accidentally moved out of unit 113. So going back to Storman. First, we need to actually find your agreement. As most of you will already know, there is no inactive agreements within your dashboard. So you actually need to go through customers and then find all agreements. This will actually bring up a quick list of all active agreements. And if we actually filter this data towards that inactive, we can actually find our accidentally moved out customer pretty easily. So once you actually double click on this, it will open up the inactive agreement. You can see there that does actually log that the person was in 113. So, and at the top right, you can see this is non-active. To reactivate, you actually need to add back into the unit. So as soon as I click here, you'll see this clears because it says that it's inactive. So if you actually add in, so green plus button, much the steps that we just did before, you can actually add back in 113, or you can actually hit the select, find our unit 113. And straight away, Storman's actually going to ask you if you want to reactivate an inactive agreement. At this time, you want to select yes, as this will actually open up the agreement so you can actually start recurring billing once again. It's just going to give you a quick alert just to also tell you that the agreement's been reactivated. Hitting OK. As Storman actually moved out this customer, it would have already reversed the deposit that the customer's already paid. I'm just going to select yes to this, as I do want to charge another deposit. There is options later on, which I'll show you, which we can actually clear all that up. You'll also see that this customer is now moved back into 113. Their agreement is now active as per the top right, but they still have a 0 regular rent. So you do need to make sure you update their regular rent to what it was before, as Storman will just add it in as a 0. And if you leave it as 0, Storman won't actually take any payments or trigger auto payment or anything like that. So just updating it back to 135. Our next stop is actually checking the transactions tab. If I scroll down the bottom here, you can actually see here that the customer got moved out. So they did actually have a deposit on the original agreement that was actually reversed back to them when I actually moved them out. So I've charged an extra deposit, a cancellation fee. So that's from when they actually did move out. But now that we've actually moved them back in, Storman's also created a rental credit as well as a reverse deposit. At this time, you usually actually have to credit back what was actually removed, or you can actually choose to highlight these and actually go delete as if they were never there. It's entirely up to you on how you would do this. Usually being in an inactive agreement or accidental move out, the customer would never actually they would never got any comms that they got accidentally removed out. So I'm just going to purely just remove these because that way the agreement's just back into what state it was before. Lastly, we're just going to check the move out tab. As you can see here, it's still actually saved the move out notice given. So I'm actually just going to clear that out. That way you don't actually get any calendar notes popping up to say that the person's given out their notice or anything like that. So now that the agreement's actually active and back into against the unit, our next stop is we actually need to update the unit history of this unit, as Storman would have actually logged that the person originally moved out and then back in, and thus creating a duplicate. So to change the unit history, if you go through maintenance and then units, find our unit in question, which is this one just here, so 113. You can actually search this list if your list is quite large, so 113. Clicking. Straight away, you can see the unit status is rented, which is perfect. And then you've got your unit history. So you can see here that I've still got a duplicate unit history. You do need to remove one of these. So if you actually just click into here and go delete history, hit OK. And then you will actually need to update your current move in as well to the original move out date. OK. And done down the bottom. And now that customer's actually moved back in. So what we've done is we've actually moved them back into that unit. We've removed any proratas or any credits or reverse deposits that are actually added during the move out process. And then we've also updated the unit history to say that this person never actually moved out and their original move-in date was back to the same one. I've just got a question from Shirley. You didn't need to write a note in the previous screen. We normally have to write at least 20 characters. That is correct. So usually when you're actually adding a credit within Storman to say credit back any of the charges that were added, you usually do actually have to write a note of 20 characters. As I removed those, so I just deleted them in total, I didn't actually need to write any 20 characters. If I did actually edit that note or edit the credit itself that was actually created, I would have then actually needed to do my 20 characters. It's entirely up to you on how you actually manage the notes and the transactions that actually got created. I personally prefer just removing them as it was an accidental move out to begin with. So that's your unit, accidentally moving out a customer. Have I got any other questions just on how to reactivate an inactive agreement just while we're here? Okay. So thank you. Have we got any further questions just on anything that was actually shown during this power session? Keep in mind, we will actually be sending out a recorded session of this. Okay, perfect. Well, I'd just like to say thank you for all that attended today's session. The next session is going to be on the 28th of February, based upon merchandise packs and bulk discounts. They're two very, very cool things within Storman, so I do highly suggest jumping in and having a watch of those. Once again, we'll be sending out the recorded sessions of these and actually uploading them to all our socials, so your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so on. So yes, thank you, and I'm sure I'll be speaking to a lot of you in the future. Have a good day. Sorry, I've just had a late question from Frank. When you have a person transferring from a unit to the same day as the move-in, what do you need to do with the pro rata? Generally, with your pro ratas, As mentioned before, if they are actually coming into the unit and they decided that they did want a bigger unit instead of the one that they've seen, that's perfectly fine. Just do a unit transfer, and then when it does actually ask you for any pro ratas, just unbill your first month's rent. So you actually start from scratch. And so when Storman does actually create pro ratas, it won't actually enter anything as there's nothing to pro rata. And then from there, you just need to bill your first month's rent as per usual. And then Storm will actually kick up underneath the new unit type instead.